Material beauty is like a firefly, and the Lord's beauty is like a sun. That's the point. And so Krishna is the abode of all perfections. So actually, out of falsing a living entity, a devotee, he tries to reach or attain the platform of perfection. People think, okay, I want to be perfectionist, the best in my field, the best in my locality, at least the best in my community, the best in my office, the best. So it is this desire to manifest the best, which actually is the cause of entanglement. Rather, a genuine sadhaka, he understands that actually Krishna is all perfect and the acharyas are all perfect. So the point is, the more one sees himself as perfect, the less perfect service he will be able to render. And the more one sees himself as imperfect, the more service he will be able to render. That's the point. That's the basic aspect of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. That's the entire basic aspect of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So as a devotee, one should safeguard himself from this perfection mania. This perfection is a mania. Oh, I want to be all perfect. So I have taken devotional service. Even if I am vessel washing in charge, I will wash the vessel so perfectly and it will shine so much that people will ask, like, Kisne dhoya? Yeah. So we have to get out of this perfection mania. That means, so we are in a healthy state when we are looking at our own imperfections, and in that way we have a homework to do. We have something to struggle to offer to Krishna. That's the point. So you see, that's the point. And so perfection mania is the cause of stagnation for a devotee. It is only the Supreme Lord who is all perfect. That's the point. And we should rejoice in the Lord's perfectness and in the Acharya's perfectness. That yes, the Lord is so perfect that just like Prabhupada gives the example, Lord Ramachandra is Supreme Personality of Godhead. What is the proof? He can make monkeys to do wonders. That's the power of the Lord. Similarly, by the Lord's perfection, we can also offer some service. Similarly, by the Acharya's perfection, we can also, they can engage us who are practically useless also in some service to them. So that's a healthy consciousness. Shama Shroni Adhiro Chishnu Dukula Swaranamekalam Samacharav Angre Jangahoru Nimnajano Sudarshanam. The lower part of the Lord's waist is dark and covered with yellow garments and a belt bedecked with golden embroidery work. His symmetrical lotus feet and the calves and the thighs and the joints of his legs are extraordinarily beautiful. Indeed, the Lord's entire body appears to be well built. Lord Shiva is one of the 12 great authorities mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. These authorities are Swayambhu, Narada, Shambhu, Kumara, Kapila, Manu, Prahalada, Janaka, Bhishma, Bali, Vaiyasaki or Sukadev Goswami and Yamaraj. The impersonalists who generally worship Lord Shiva should learn of the transcendental Satchit Ananda Vigraha of the Lord. Here Lord Shiva kindly describes the details of the Lord's bodily features. Thus the impersonalist argument that the Lord has no form cannot be accepted under any circumstance. So this is very beautiful. Srila Prabhupada is talking that you see these impersonalists, actually the impersonalists, you see, they are making their path so difficult. So difficult. It is so difficult that practically the path of impersonalism is extinct. It is first of all very bleak possibility and probability to attain success on the path of impersonalism, and secondly the pathway is completely extinct because it is so difficult. Where does one absorb himself? Where is the point of absorption? Where is the point that the mind can be hooked? Therefore actually absorption happens in multitude, not in solitude. That's a point which we have to understand. How can absorption happen in solitude? Absorption can only happen in multitude. So multitude has to be there for absorption to happen actually. Otherwise absorption cannot happen. Absorption. So we need more and more inputs for the mind to be absorbed. Because you see the mind is like a fluid. The mind is Dravya Vastu. And a fluid will find out some nook and corner or crevice to actually seep out. So one has to keep filling up one by one all the crevices till nothing remains. Then we will be able to hold the mind. But the impersonalists, they have no container only. So how the water will be held? So yeah, it is very much like horse's eggs. How the water will be held, you know? So path of impersonalism, reaching perfection, impossible. Without any container, without any hook. Without any hook. Where does one land? One simply crashes down. That's all, you know. But when we see, now we are talking about the beauty of the Lord, just by meditating and hearing from the Acharyas about the description of each and every limb of the Lord, that itself is so beautiful. But yes, the Lord is wearing a golden belt, which is embroidered, and then the Lord is wearing another place. There is a description that the Lord's dhoti is like lightning. The Lord's pitambar dhoti is like lightning. It's a flash of lightning. The dhoti flashes, like that. So there is a description in Bhagavatam elsewhere about the Lord's form. So amazing. Kapil Dev is describing about the lotus feet of the Lord and how the palms of the lotus feet of the Lord are reddish and the toenails of the Lord are pinkish, like that. And from the tip of those toenails, the effulgence is coming out, light is coming out, which actually lights up the entire universe. The effulgence of the toenails. That is exactly what lights up the entire universe, and that is what is called as Brahmajyoti, essentially. So each of these descriptions are so beautiful. So therefore, actually, a devotee never lands up into a shortage, whereas an impersonalist or person with a hodgepodge conception can never gain weightage or footage. He can never gain weightage because he has nothing to actually hook on to. Whereas for a devotee, there is no limit to hook on to. One Acharya describes the beauty of the Lord in such an amazing panoramic manner. Another Acharya will give another different kind of analogies to describe the beauty of the Lord. So amazing it is. Yeah. One description of the Lord, another description of the Lord, another description of the Lord. Every Acharya describes a new angle of description of the word, the Supreme Lord. And one gets so many hooks. Similarly, we see, different kinds of services, different ways in which the same service can be rendered. It is infinite actually. And therefore, for a devotee, there is no shortage because he can get hooked. So one who wants to get hooked everywhere, he can get hooked anywhere actually. Because that's what a devotee is. He's enthusiastic about everything. And so when it's preaching, he's enthusiastic about preaching. When it is cooking seva, he's enthusiastic about cooking. Serving, he's enthusiastic about serving. Now sadhana is enthusiastic about sadhana. Vaishnav seva is enthusiastic about Vaishnav seva. A devotee is enthusiastic about everything. So the devotee never finds shortage of hooks. Whereas an impersonalist, miserable fellow, he doesn't have any footage. So Prabhupada is explaining. Very beautiful. Padasharat Padmapalasharochisha Nakadyubhir no antar angam vidhunvata Pradarshaya swiyam apastas sadhavasam Padam guru marga guru stamojusham. My dear Lord, your two lotus feet are so beautiful that they appear like two blossoming petals of the lotus flower, which grows during the autumn season. Indeed, the nails of your lotus feet emanate such a great effulgence that they immediately dissipate all the darkness in the heart of the conditioned soul. My dear Lord, kindly show me that form of yours which always dissipates all kinds of darkness in the heart of a devotee. My dear Lord, you are the supreme spiritual master of everyone. Therefore, all the conditioned souls covered with the darkness of ignorance can be enlightened by you as the spiritual master. So here Lord Shiva is praying, my dear Lord, kindly show me that form of yours which always dissipates all kinds of darkness in the heart of a devotee. He's saying you're the supreme spiritual master of everyone. Therefore, all the conditioned souls covered with the darkness of ignorance can be enlightened by you as a spiritual master. Lord Shiva has thus described the bodily features of the Lord authoritatively. Now he wants to see the lotus feet of the Lord. When a devotee wants to see the transcendental form of the Lord, he begins his meditation on the Lord's body by first looking at the feet of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be the transcendental sound form of the Lord, and the 12 cantos are divided in accordance with the transcendental form of the Lord. The first and second cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam are called the two lotus feet of the Lord. It is therefore suggested by Lord Shiva that one should first try to see the lotus feet of the Lord. This also means that if one is serious about reading Srimad Bhagavatam, he must begin by seriously studying the first and the second cantos. The beauty of the lotus feet of the Lord is compared to the petals of a lotus flower which grows in the autumn season. By nature's law, in autumn, the dirty or muddy waters of rivers and lakes become very clean. Yes. At that time, the lotus flowers growing in the lakes appear very bright and beautiful. The lotus flower itself is compared to the lotus feet of the Lord. And the petals are compared to the nails of the feet of the Lord. The nails of the feet of the Lord are very bright, as Brahma Samhita testifies. Ananda Chinmaya Sadujjvala Vigrahasya. Every limb of the transcendental body of the Lord is made of Ananda Chinmaya Sad Ujjvala. Thus every limb is eternally bright. As the sunshine dissipates the darkness of this material world, the effulgence emanating from the body of the Lord immediately dries up the darkness in the heart of the conditioned soul. In other words, everyone serious about understanding the transcendental science and seeing the transcendental form of the Lord must first of all attempt to see the lotus feet of the Lord by studying the first and second cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. When one sees the lotus feet of the Lord, all kinds of doubts and fears within the heart are vanquished. In Bhagavad Gita it is said that in order to make spiritual progress, one must become fearless. Abhayam, Sattva, Samshuddhi. Fearlessness is the result, fearfulness, is the result of material involvement. It is also said in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:2-37. Bhayam Dvitiya Binimeshata Syat. Fearfulness is a creation of the bodily conception of life. As long as one is absorbed in the thought that he is this material body, he is fearful. And as soon as one is freed from this material conception, he becomes Brahmabhuta or self-realized and immediately becomes fearless. Brahmabhuta prasannatma. Without being fearless, one cannot be joyful. The bhaktas, the devotees, are fearless and always joyful because they are constantly engaged in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. It is also said, Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogata bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. This is Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, 20th verse. By practicing Bhagavad Bhakti Yoga, one becomes fearless and joyful. Unless one becomes fearless and joyful, he cannot understand the science of God. Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate. This verse refers to those who are completely liberated from the fearfulness of this material world. When one is so liberated, he can really understand the transcendental features of the form of the Lord. Lord Shiva therefore advises everyone to practice Bhagavat Bhakti Yoga. As will be clear in the following verses, by doing so, one can become really liberated and enjoy spiritual bliss. It is stated, Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. The Lord is the Supreme Spiritual Master and the bona fide representative of the Supreme Lord. The Lord is the Supreme Spiritual Master and the bona fide representative of the Supreme Lord is also a Spiritual Master. The Lord from within enlightens the devotees by the effulgence of the nails of his lotus feet. And his representative, the Spiritual Master, enlightens from without. Only by thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord and always taking the Spiritual Master's advice can one advance in spiritual life and understand Vedic knowledge. Yasya deve para bhaktir yatha deve tatha guru tasyaite katita hi artha prakashante mahatmanah. Thus the Vedas, the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 623 enjoin that for one who has unflinching faith in the lotus feet of the Lord, as well as in the spiritual master, the real import of Vedic knowledge can be revealed. Lord Shiva is talking about the great effulgence which is exuding out of the lotus feet of the Lord. Oh, the Lord's lotus feet are compared to as lotus petals, and even the toenails of the Lord are compared to lotus petals. You see, the Lord's even the toenails of the Lord are so soft; they're like lotus petals, fully blossomed lotus petals. Prabhupada explains that actually there is a lot of dust which gets accumulated in lakes. Somehow the autumn rains are like that all this dust settles down. Therefore the lakes, so Prabhupada quotes this at many places, the lake becomes fully transparent. That is why Prabhupada is saying the beauty of the lake becomes even more uh, even more prominent. Prabhupada explains that. So Srila Prabhupada is telling that one should focus on the lotus feet of the Lord. Actually, and Prabhupada is telling when one focuses on the lotus feet of the Lord, what the quality which one will attain is abhayam, that is fearlessness, freedom from fear and doubt. Freedom from fear and doubt. So, so how to meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord? So the lotus feet of the Lord manifests in the form of the instructions of the Lord. If one is always having the instructions of the Lord in his mind, such a person can be free from the fearfulness and the doubt. So Prabhupada is talking about this fearfulness and the doubt. As long as one is fearful and doubtful, now what happens because of that, or as a falashruti of that, is one cannot joyfully and enthusiastically practice. And Prabhupada is explaining that as long as one thinks he is this body, he will always be entangled. So, but when one can get out of this bodily consciousness. So getting out means prioritizing spiritual mission more than the bodily demands. That is what is the meaning of prioritizing. So, that okay, one's own needs are there, and somehow, somewhere or the other, one can fulfill basic needs in a simple way, but one is super excited about the mission of the Lord. So the prioritizing the mission of the Lord more than the bodily engagements, needs, and ever increasing demands. That's the meaning of prioritizing Krishna consciousness, and that's the meaning of approaching the lotus